For the first slide, I'll just start for the narration of why this security B is needed. So this is a very small real life example of while sending one letter to another. So here is a depiction of a real life example where Ria sends a letter to Amit. As you can see that Ria wants to send an email to Amit, message to Amit. So Ria first will be going to the courier service. So courier service, basically the Ria has two preferred courier services, Blue Dart and DHL. So these are the preferred courier services that usually Ria uses while sending any letter to anybody. So in the next step, we can see that Amit, who is a receiver, he has a security personnel standing outside his house. So basically, Amit's security personnel is the one who verifies from his register whether the letter has to be delivered to Amit or not. There's a verification register that Amit's security personnel is already having. There you can see that the register contains basically all the name of the senders, the courier they usually use to send. Basically, these are the already verified send courier services that already being, the sender sends. Then the third part is the signature. Signature is basically is as simple as you can see in a bank also. Whenever you processes a check or something, the bank first verifies the signature which already in their database. Whenever the signature is matched, then only your check gets processed. So in the same case here also, it checks whether the signature that's already in the register matches the RIA signature or not, and the courier, that preferred courier, which is Blue Dart and DHL, sends by RIA usually, is matched or not. Based on these two parameters, the Amit security personnel, will check whether the letter is verified or not. So if the signature and the courier services is matched with the letter, with the courier register, with the verification register and the mail, the letter which is sent by the RIA, then the letters gets verified and the Amit security personnel will hand over it to Amit. If the letter doesn't matches, if you say if somebody else sends, just say, take an example, if I am somebody else's, say there's one more person, say Rahul sends the same letter on behalf of Ria. The letter is from on behalf of Ria only. But now Rahul sends it with a courier, say DTDC. Now the DTDC and the signature will not match from the verification register, because as you can see, Ria usually uses Blue Dart and DHL. At that point of time, the Amit security personnel will identify the letter is unverified, and he might not, hand over it to Amit, or he might trash it to the dustbin. So this is how it works. So the Amit security personnel is the one who verifies against the register, the verification register, which already having the sources basically the courier services, which RIA usually sends, and the signature that's already being stored inside the register. Now, take an example, if the Amit security personnel in the verification register, the data is not there. If the security personnel doesn't even know about whether RIA is sending by which courier or signature, what would happen? At that point of time, any letter will be delivered to Amit, whether it's fake letter or any fraudulent letter will be delivered to Amit. So to save Amit from getting these kinds of letter, Amit has uses a security personnel which verifies against the register. We'll be comparing it about how it happens with the email as well. So for the real life example, we have already demonstrated about how Ria and Amit sends an email, and how Ria sends a letter and Amit receives it. The next Moving forward to the next slide, going to the topic today's session. So today's session is basically about the dmarc. So I'll give you a little brief about what basically dmarc is, as I believe many of of the our audiences must be knowing about what is dmarc and what are these protocols and what is basically SPF and DKIM. But I would still like to go through a little brief about what is dmarc, how it originated, why it's necessary. So dmarc stands for domain-based message authentication, reporting, and performance. So basically, it's a protocol. It's a validation protocol that protects any organization from getting hacked, from getting spoofed, and from getting any impersonation attacks. So dmarc is basically a protocol that validates whether my email is authentic or not. The dmarc standard was basically created a long time back. That's basically created because of the domain spoofing, where the attackers uses somebody else's identification to send any mail or mail or letter, something like that. So to prevent this from nobody sends any mail on your behalf, or how should other person, other mail servers should identify whether the mail which I am receiving, that is authentic or not. So here the dmarc comes into play. So dmarc checks whether the email is authentic or not. So there are the two standard protocols of dmarc, that's basically spf and dkim. These are the two other authentication protocols that dmarc uses to identify the mail. So spf stands for sender policy framework and dkim stand for domain keys identified mail. I'll be discussing in this next slide what is basically SPF and DKIM. Just giving a little brief. SPFs are basically the sources, and DKIM is basically the signature. As we have just discussed in the previous slide, also SPF are the sources, just like the courier services, just DHL and the Blue Dart, etc. Then the DKIM is basically the signature. But in the previous slide, it was a physical signature that the guard was having inside his register. But in the email sector, then we have a digital signature. So that comes inside the DKIM. So what is the SPF and DKIM? As I have already mentioned, SPF is basically the sender policy framework. It basically it acts as a security guard for emails. So what it contains? SPF contains all the approved senders for your email addresses. So whenever the receiver would send, so you already tell everybody, you tell the the receiver, you tell the receiver that okay, fine, these are the sources that I'll be sending my emails from. Say from Google. Say you are using G Suite, you have a Google. So you will be already listing all the Google and IPs, saying that whenever I'll send, say you are the owner of XYZ company. So whenever you will be sending the email from XYZ company to anybody, to any receiver, the SPF would tell the other person, the other basically receiver, that I'll be using Google. These are the my domains that's already being listed, and the message has to be delivered from these channels only. Any other senders comes in between, any other the sources that comes in between, then the dmarc will automatically get failed. Same goes with dkim. Dkim is a digital signature. This protocol tells you about the digital signature. It's basically uses an asymmetric encryption to sign. Basically it's a uses this encryption to verify your email. And spf allows you, it contains basically the list of all the ip addresses to address to send basically the email on behalf of your domain. So to summarize this, the first is DMARC. DMARC consists of two protocols. One is SPF. SPF is basically the authorized senders. DKIM is basically the signature while you will sending the email. Second, the next slide is we talk about the DMARC policies. So what is the DMARC policies? In layman language, if I say you let what after if SPF is failed, or the sources doesn't matches, or you can say the signature is not matched. Obviously, there must be some action after having those condition. So there's the policies. The policy says if the DMARC is failed. So if the DMARC is failed, then you have two more policies: the quarantine and reject. The none policy is basically for the success part only. If the mail is safe, if the mail passes if the DMARC policy is is set to be passed, then the policy none would be applied. The none would be, it will automatically deliver to your mailbox. Then if the message gets failed, if your DMARC gets failed, then you have two more options. First is quarantine policy. If you have set your policy to quarantine, this basically will all the messages being received under this policy will be automatically be sent towards the spam folder or junk folder. All the messages will deliver to junk and spam folder. Then you have the reject policy. If you have set your DMARC policy to reject, the policy will never be never be allow your email to be delivered to the inboxes. It will automatically reject and will never be delivered to the mailboxes. So we have three policies we have covered. The first is none basically for the safe emails. Then second is whenever the DMARC gets failed, you have quarantine. Then we have reject policy. So now let's see how DMARC works basically. So I have I have put both of the images so that you can relate how this real life example is being compared to as of emails. As I have already depicted you how Ria wanted to send an email to Amit, and you can see there are courier services and the verification register where the Amit's security personnel basically checks how it happens. Then it checks whether the letter is verified or not. Same goes with emails also. Now you can see here the email, the RIA is the sender over here. You can see in the email. Now the sender sends via the sender's mail server. Now sender's mail server is being configured with Google. Now the receiver email server is Outlook. Now whenever the message would be sent, say if I take the same example with the email also, if Ria wants to send an email to Amit, right, then Ria would be sending the the email. Then now Amit's server, basically the receiver's mail server, will check the sender's DNS. Sender's DNS is basically the Ria's DNS. The sender's DNS, it will check all the it will check all the parameters, all the protocols of the email that has been received. The first, it will check the SPF record. Like, we'll first check the SPF record. SPF record is basically, you can see above, it's a courier, basically the senders, authentication senders, that has to be that's already been in the register. Second, it checks the DCAM record. DCAM record is basically the signature. Above you can see that's a physical signature. In the second for the emails, you can see it's a digital signature that it checks. Then thirdly, it checks about the dmarc record. So dmarc record is basically is a combination of SPF and DKIM only. It basically checks the SPF and DKIM. If SPF and DKIM and pass, the dmarc record is automatically gets passed. Now, out of this, whenever the sender DNS gets checked by the receiver's email server, then there is a condition that comes out of the dmarc. Now you can see there are two conditions: whether dmarc would be passed or dmarc would get failed. If the dmarc is passed and your policy, you have set your policy to none, it will automatically land it to your inbox. That's a very safest option. That's the most common, the mail train option. Then second, if your dmarc gets failed, say your courier, your sender does not get matched, your signature is not matched. At that case, dmarc will get automatically failed, and it will then check your policies. It will check your policies that you have configured. Say if anything gets failed, you have configured your policy to quarantine. If you have set your policy to quarantine, the email will directly be landed to spam folder. And if your policy is set to reject, then the message will never be delivered. So this is how this all dmarc works in terms of the real life example and in terms of mail. As you can see, this both both you can say both of the scenarios goes hand in hand only. It's just that in the first part you can see it's a physical letter that's being sent by Ria to Amit, and then the second phase for the emails, it's being sent by the normal email. Now you can see the Amit security personnel, that's basically the guard. It's the guard that verifies everything, whether it's everything set or not. Here's the receiver's mail service is acting like the guard only. It checks the register that's already being, the records are already been there or not. So the verification register basically is what we are talking about today, that there should be entry there. Your SPF and DKIM records should be in your register, because if the security guard or your dmarc doesn't find it on your DNS, your your SPF and DKIM record, the your messages might not get delivered, and it will automatically bounce back, or you will have a very low rate of message delivery. So this is how dmarc works for emails as well as a real life. Then we'll be moving to the next slide. So why do you need dmarc? Like, we have discussed about what exactly dmarc works. Now we'll be discussing about why you actually need dmarc. So the first the section would be cover is risk of not implementing dmarc. So now dmarc is increasing day by day, because in this modern world, modern technology, the spoofing and this phishing scenarios have been increasing, daily in a very large number. Now you can see daily anybody is getting hacked, and the most effective way and the most common way of hacking somebody or getting phished is email only. So email is the first parameter, is the first source of for the hacker that uses to hack somebody or to damage anybody's reputation. So dmarc is very important to be configured for your emails, so that your email should have credibility and it should land to the inboxes you are sending. It's basically it's very important for the organizations also to have your dmarc configured. So the first risk that, if organization does not have dmarc, would be domain spoofing. If you have not configured your dmarc, it's you are already been exposed to getting risk fraud, your email spoofing. You are somehow inviting the hacker to to spoof any email on behalf of you. Fraud risk gets increased, and your reputation of the brand also comes into play. So the first point is domain spoofing. The second point will go to the brand reputation damage. Obviously, the hackers might use to damage your brand reputation, because the what hacker would do is the hacker would send multiple emails, many fraudulent emails to your customers. It will first find out whether your customers are, then your all the customers will receive an email on your behalf, which you might not be sending any fraudulent emails and etc. Now what would happen is the customer will automatically see that the message is from XYZ company, which you have not intended to, or which you might not even send. But still the reputation of your brand, your organization will get damaged if you don't have this policy. Then third is phishing and BEC attacks. As I've already discussed, that phishing and BEC attacks also gets increased because of this dmarc, the lack of dmarc policy being set. You increase the likelihood of successful phishing. The phishing rate would get increased if this protocol is not in the place. Then we have compliance violations. If you are going for a compliance, or if you're applying for any compliance, any regulations such as GDPR, HIPAA, you must be dmarc compliant. Your emails and your security servers must be compliant with dmarc. Your policies and your SPA, everything should be set in the DNS, so that your email security should be enough to get those regulations. Then the last is email delivery issues. Your email, whenever you sends an email, you would obviously you would try to send it to the, you would like to deliver it to the as many as mailbox you want. But sometimes what happens is, if this dmarc is missing, many of the ISPs, they classify it phishing. They might classify it as phishing, they might classify it as spam, or they will not be delivered to the inboxes, because the missing of dmarc by many of the ISPs would consider that this information is not in our register, is not in the DNS, so it might be vulnerable to us. So your messages will never be delivered if you don't have the dmarc policy set. So these are the risks that one would be having if your dmarc is not set. Then moving forward, we'll be discussing about what basically the benefits of having dmarc. Then dmarc is basically the first, obviously, is explained that it will enhance your domain's reputation. It will prevent all the email spoofing and maintain your trustworthiness. Your domain reputation will be intact. So having this dmarc configured. Then second, it would ensure compliance. The dmarc policies already covers all the compliances, all the protocols, all the regulations needed by the compliance team. So the moment you are dmarc compliant, you are already ensuring you're compliant with all the securities that be needed with the email. Then the third is enhancing email delivery. The delivery of the email, so that it lands to the inboxes, all the inboxes that you are sending. The Basically, it's the rate of email being delivered to your senders. Whatever you send, it's all the email should be landed to the inboxes. It increases it because your dmarc is set. Then the third is it will strengthen your security. Any phishing attacks, any impersonation attacks, any unauthorized attacks would be automatically being, will be handled by dmarc only, because the any messages that's not coming from the correct source, that's not having the correct product signature, the message will not be delivered. So by this way, your security will also get strengthened. Then the fifth point is your customers' confidence in your email. Whenever your customers will receive the email from you, they will be more confident about the authentication messages. It's basically, it will tell the audiences, it will tell the customers that if XYZ company is, we have received any emails from XYZ company, it's actually from XYZ company, and it's not somebody else's who is sending the emails on XYZ company. So by this way, you give the confidence to your customers that that your emails which you are sending are authentic and it's from your company only. So having dmarc will give you all these points, or all these benefits for your organization as well. Then for the today's agenda, as the new email security guidelines that has been released recently, this has been published by the most major email service providers, basically by Google and Yahoo only, and other ISPs also following these things. What are the new email security guidelines? We'll be discussing about in the next slide. So email service providers have recently launched new security guidelines. So these rules are basically recently been published by Google, Yahoo, and other ESPs also. These rules, you have to have it, in your mind that these rules are applicable from February 1, 2004. That's basically we have already 7 days passed. These rules have been implemented, and these rules are applicable. You have to follow these guidelines. You have to fulfill all these guidelines by April end. They have given a date by April end. Between February, March, and April, these 3 months they have given. Within the 3 months, you have to implement all these new regulations. Otherwise, your emails will not land to any of the inboxes if you fail any of these rules. So it's mostly it's very important for the organizations who are sending bulk emails, basically approximately 5,000 daily to Gmail accounts, and the other authentication requirements may apply on it. So, and these guidelines basically focuses on three aspects. The first is basically it tells about the authentication of outbound emails. Second is the spam rates, the reported spam rates, and the third would be the unsubscribing on email rates that facilitates the basically it's the unsubscribing email option should be available in the guidelines. As you can see on the right side also, we have embedded the image also, where you can see the guidelines that have been released by Google only. So you have 3 months to apply all these rules. So I would suggest that everybody should configure the dmarc and follow these rules to to get your mails delivered, and your mails should get delivered, and you should not be away from these rules. So the first guideline we talk about is the email authentication. So what is this email authentication? Email authentication basically, this section basically tells you that now all the companies that send the email via Gmail or Yahoo must have SPF and DMARC authentication methods implemented. Earlier, it was not implemented properly. It was a good to have, like most of the companies do. But now Google and Yahoo has made it compulsory that if you send any email from their mechanism for Gmail or Yahoo, these SPF and DKIM protocols must be implemented, must be in the place. Then you have to set your SPF, DKIM, and protocols to verify domain, so that to prevent spoofing. These protocols has to be already you have to set in a place. Third, all the companies must have DM policy in place. As we have already discussed, the domain DMARC policy is basically what if the email gets failed. So you have to already configure the policies, whether you want to send the mail to quarantine, whether you mail want to not, whether we want to keep the policy to reject so that message doesn't get delivered, or you want to keep it on a none. So none is basically, obviously, it's for the mail which is successful, it will automatically be landed to the mailboxes. So basically, the what we have discussed in the first place, that SPF and DKIM DMARC should be configured. This is the first guideline that has been provided by these two major providers, that these policies has to be sent. So the first guideline says that your DMARC policies and SPF DKIM should be configured. Then moving forward to the guideline 2, it says that, as obviously when you send a bulk email, there is a chances there is a very high rate of chances that many of the users might find it spam, or they don't like it, or they file it as a mark it as spam, or you report your email. So now Google says that whenever you send an email, your spam rate should not be more than 0.3%, and the optimal aim should be below 0.1%. Your spam rate should not exceed 0.3%. Yeah, for the Yahoo has not specifically maintained the threshold, but more or less it's the same thing only. And you can see the graph also. For the 0 to 0.1%, that's the safe line. That's the optimal delivery that you are supposed to maintain, that 0 to 0.1%. If you go beyond that 0.1%, that's a moderate range, that your messages will be delivered, your emails will be delivered, but your approach should be below 0.1 only. 0.1 to 0.3% is the moderate level that Google can maximum take up to 0.3%. Exceeding 0.3%, the messages will never be delivered. Your messages will automatically get rejected after some time, and you won't be able to deliver such high volume messages. So the optimal delivery rate should be less than 0.1%. So make sure whenever you share any newsletter or any promotional messages, your content, everything should be appropriate, and the user should not mark it as spam, and the user should not report it your email. So this is the second guideline, that your spam rate should be less than 0.1%. Then third guideline would be that messages must include one click subscribe. I guess many of you are already, you have this button, unsubscribe button, and we usually see it in the messages whenever we receive any promotional messages, whenever we see any promotional messages, newsletter, any messages that sort of comes. So unsubscribe button is already there, but now it has been mandated. This was the first, earlier it was optional, because many of the companies does not have this subscribe button. So for the users, now the Google has made it compulsory, that your templates, whatever the templates you send, whatever the messages you send, there should be unsubscribe button. So the first point comes inside this is, you have to ensure that there should be a one click unsubscribe link should be implemented in your email. Then secondly, the unsubscribe request, basically the users that will unsubscribe the request, that has to be processed within 2 days. It should not be like, a bundle of things that you are storing in some sort of database or something. That has to be processed within 2 days, that the users must be deleted from the subscribe list, so that they should not receive these kinds of emails again. Now, third is the unsubscribe link that you are putting in your email, that should be clearly visible to the users, so that whenever they want, they can unsubscribe it. You cannot put the button in somewhere, just a small button, so that it's not visible and you can, escape this parameter. So they have clearly mentioned that this button should be clearly visible, so that any of the user, if they don't want this message, they can unsubscribe it. So this is the third guideline that they have imposed. Then after these guidelines, we shall be moving forward to the our product. So basically, I would like to tell you that how can Threatcop help in complying you with these new security guidelines. Well, we'll be telling you about what exactly Threatcop does, and how we would help you, in getting compliant, in getting dmarc compliant, in getting your policies set, your SPA dmarc configured in a very seamless way. So I'll be introducing TDMark. So TDMark is one of the product of our Threatcop. So TDMark is basically help protects your email domain. It increases your email delivery, and it enhances your domain reputation. So TDMark is a SaaS-based tool. We have designed it basically to streamline the configuration of SPF, DKIM, and DMARC records. You can easily configure these protocols, which we have discussed in the previous slides, with a very seamless and very easy interface from our TDMark product, from our TDMark tool. Then TDMark is a very plays a very crucial role. It helps in preventing email spoofing. It helps in preventing domain FQs, and it safeguard your integrity also in organizations and multiple channels. Then it helps in preventing unauthenticated or fraudulent mails also, because it won't allow your recipient to receive any of the mails that is being sent on your behalf. So it will prevent anybody impersonating you, anybody who is sending mail on behalf of you. We make sure that it doesn't end up landing to your recipient, so that your brand reputation should not be hampered. Then as we know that thousands of organizations that are already facing massive financial reputations, and many losses have been that being occurred in this modern trade. Then we shall check out how dmarc can help you. We'll discuss in the next slide what exactly dmarc will do to help you to safeguard your email delivery and safeguard your brand reputation from being hacked. So in this slide, I will explain you how TDMarc can help you from getting all those, all those regulations published by Google and Yahoo be compliant with. The first one is easy implementation. By our tool, you can easily implement SPF, DMARC, and BIMI. We have Smart SPF, we have Smart DMARC, and Smart BIMI. What it does is basically you can configure your all email sources, IPs, and the DMARC records, etc., from our dashboard only. You don't have to visit DNS again and again. everything will be managed inside a single portal inside our dashboard. Then we have smart SPF. Smart SPF, you can configure the sources. Then dmarc. Dmarc basically tells you the policies. Then the BME, we have recently launched BME few months back only. The BME is basically you can have your authentic image on your emails while you send. Say if you want to say you have many employees in a company, but everyone has their own image whenever they send. Say there is a Rahul. So if Rahul has not set their DP, the R, the first letter of the Rahul will come inside the small logo icon. To to make it more authentic, we have implemented BME. So what BME would do it, you can have your own authenticated company logo. Say you are from XYZ company, and XYZ logo has some logo. You can set in the logo, and all the emails that will be transferring, inside and outbound, every email will have your logo to make your uh, email more authentic. Then the second point would be we have smooth DMARC policy management. What smooth DMARC policy management means that the policies which you have discussed above, which I have discussed above, that there are three policies for the policy where is equals to none, then the policy is equals to quarantine, where is policy is equals to rejected. All these policies management can be done with a single click from our tool. You just have to click which policy you want to implement, and all the policy, all the things, all the configuration from connecting the DNS, everything will be done by our DMARC. Then we have real-time monitoring and alerts. Whenever a new IP comes in, say, I will just give an example that you have already defined sources, like the courier services, say DHL and Blue Dart. Now, if somebody sends you with a new source, say DTDC or say any XYZ courier services, our tool will immediately inform you that some new source have been, the mail is coming from a new source, and you will have a real-time monitoring. It will give you an alert that about all the email threads that occur, on a real time. Then the third is easy compliance with DMARC standards. So we follow all the standards that comes inside the DMARC. So you can adapt the latest security protocols. We cover everything that DMARC needs to have, all the protocols we cover, so that your company is easily compliant with DMARC standards. Then we boost email deliverability. We ensure that your emails, your legitimate emails, should reach to the inboxes of your recipients. We make sure that whatever the emails you send, your outbound emails you send, your all the messages, all the bulk emails, whether it's bulk email or number of emails, all the emails should land the inboxes that you are willing to, willing to send, or you want that all the recipients should receive all your emails, and the drop rate should be as less as possible. Your email should not be bounced back. Then we have the sixth feature we have is email assessment. We have a feature where you can check, what your email is configured with. You just have to send an email to a dedicated URL, which will be available on the tool only itself, and the DMARC will handle you. DMARC will seamlessly tell you about whether your email address is configured with SPF or not, what policy is being set to your email, what SPF is configured, or whether every DKIM is configured or not. So by this way, TDMARC can help you in applying, in following all those rules and regulations that has been implemented by Google and Yahoo. So in the next slide, I would like to say Kuldeep. I would like to Kuldeep that he should present how our DMARC works and how it can safeguard you from being spoofed, and how you can follow these all new regulations being published by Google. Thank you so much.
Hi everyone. I hope my screen is visible to you all. Firstly, thank you, Adish, for a lovely presentation. I hope everyone has an understanding about what are the new guidelines that Google and Yahoo have just released, and how the DMARC will help you in implementing these. I would just give you a brief demonstration about how TDMARC will help you in this. So I'll just start with the dashboard. You can see a lot of data here, that what is the volume, number of emails that have been sent, what is the DMARC passing percentage, what is SPF, what is DKIM passing percentage, how many mails have failed, and what are the IPs that have been used. I would explain it to you all that what are these graphs and how we have come up with this data. So firstly, I would just give you a standard briefing that how you can, utilize this tool to check your dmarc implementation. I would just start with the domain addition. I would just showcase you that you could just add your domain here. You can see there are multiple domains already added. You just need to add your domain similarly like this. Like I am just adding xyzabc.com, and it would just ask me whether I want to enable smart SPF or not. So I would just click it on yes. It will just allow me to move to my next screen. And you can see there's a CNAME record which we can, add to your DNS. Once this record is added to your DNS, the complete reports will be getting started populated in our tool, and the sources from which you are sending the mails, those will be populated here in the sources section. I'm just showcasing you for our domain, which is threatcop.com. You could see that these are the sources from which we are sending the mails. Google.com, AmazonSCS.com. What is the SP passing percentage? What is the DKM passing percentage? And what is the DMARC compliance percentage? If I open any source, I will have the complete details of it, like from domain, what is the IP, on which date, how many mails were sent, what is the server country. You could see the reporter, you could see the DKM result, DKM selector, and everything. You will find it here. You could download the Excel report of it. You could download the IP reports for it. You could filter the reports according to your requirement, like SPF fail or DKM fail. Everything would be available to here in the sources section. Now, how TDMarc helps you to visit less on your DNS? We have the smart controls here. In Smart SPF, you could just simply add your records. Like if you want to add an A record, if you want to add an IPv4 record, IP6 record, A record, PTI record, or include record, you could simply add it from this Smart SPF record, and it would be directly added. Similarly, if you want to, add the smart dmarc or manage your dmarc controls, you could directly do it from here in this domain. Let me just showcase you for the domain threatcop.com. If you want to change your policy, you could directly do it from here. There are 3 policies as explained by Atish, that none, quarantine, or reject. You could directly change it from here, and you could apply the sub policy as well. If we go to the DKM alignment, we could do the DKM alignment as well. We could do the SPF alignment as well. And if you want to receive the aggregate reports and the forensic reports of DMARC, you could receive it over any email ID. Right now, it has been set up to our IVF record, but if you want to set up to your own email address, you could set it up as well. You might have an option to, for forensic reporting, like if fails all mechanism, if only fails one mechanism, and if only for DKM failures and only for SPF failures. And similarly, you could apply the policy over the percentage of mails as well, like 100% mail should be applying the policy, or 20% or 80%. You could set it up as well. And similarly, you have the option of setting up your BME as well. So you could enter your certificate and then provide the details and implement the BME as well. We do have a vast variety of tools as well. Like you could check your DMARC records, you could check your DKM records, SPF records of any domain. Some USP features that we have is vendor checklist. So if your company is dealing with hundreds of vendor, you could just go to this vendor checklist, upload the download the sample CSV and upload it over the tool, and it will let you know that how many domains are SPF compliant, DKM compliant, or DMARC compliant or not. So this is a feature that we have in our tool. Similarly, we have an email assessment as well, in which you could just send a mail to this email ID, and we will give you a complete assessment of the mail. If you want to give the complete assessment, like from domain, what is the DMARC policy record check, what is the DMARC authentication check, SPF, the DKM signature, the complete assessment of the mail will be provided to you, so you could analyze the complete email. Similarly, if we move forward to the reporting, there are certain kinds of reports that we provide. There is a receiver report, there is a sender report, there is a forwarder report, which you could obviously schedule to your email addresses, where you can just get the email about the reports of your compliance, and you could just analyze the complete data that you have received from this tool.